So today I'm going to start doing something I've done before just a little more regularly. I call it Tidbit Tuesday. This will give me a way to disseminate some news and stuff on DDM and what the progress is without taking too much out of my regular production schedule. So today I want to talk about a couple of things that are incorrect out there about the game I'm working on, just setting the record straight, and honestly some of them are kind of funny. Then I want to talk a little bit about my plans going forward by using Tidbit Tuesday as kind of a dev blog as well. I'll also use it as a way just to get out little tidbits of news that I have that don't really fit in regular videos. So it's not going to be like an every week kind of thing, but you know, it just seems like a good way to get information out there without tying into everything. So it's going to be less edited than what I usually do by a long shot. It's going to be off the cuff, no scripting. I may have a piece of paper reading some notes, but that's it. And so let's get started. And first, what I want to talk about is just setting the record straight on some DDM stuff, mainly to make sure people don't think I'm going to finish this thing in the next 6 months, because that ain't going to happen. Oh my God. And then my next video might be a little later than planned because my other dental implant's going bad, and Wednesday I have to go in and have it taken out. So apparently I'm allergic to the titanium they use to make them out of. Yay. Teeth, man. It's like pulling teeth. So a couple of the things that I saw in the press that was interesting, that I'm going to finish the game by 2024, which is what, 6 months? Yeah, no, it's not going to happen. Not even close. I would love to get it out sometime in 2024 because that's the 40th anniversary of when I started it. So hopefully I'll at least get to an alpha or beta by the end of next year, but there's a lot of work to do, so there's no way it's going to be done in 6 months. Also, Digital Dungeon Master is the working name of the game. I don't want to go up against the litigious company that owns the rights to Dungeon Master. I've actually been in that situation before. In the mid-90s, Tom and I made a bunch of tokens for Magic the Gathering, and they were these little plastic tokens that we sold. And we never did hear a thing from Wizards of the Coast, but I can't tell you how many times somebody's like, they're going to sue you, they're going to sue you, because we called them Magic tokens, and apparently they feel like they own the name Magic, so who knows. But the game's name will use the initials DDM. It seems to be a lot of people think I've been working on this game for 40 years, and no, I wasn't. I actually thought everything was lost. In the early to mid-teens, I was cleaning up and organizing some boxes of stuff, basically consolidating them down to make some room. And I had this folder, which has got my strategically placed thumb over what I wrote on it while I was still in the Army. This contained all of my mustering out paperwork. So like my DD-214 and other paperwork that you get when you get out of the Army. So I thought this was all just Army paperwork. But when I opened it up, I found out that most of what was in it was the papers from my game that I hadn't even thought about in years. So that was the first time I really thought about working on this game in a couple of decades. Then in an earlier video, about 2 years ago, when I fixed my first 1541 drive, I discovered that the box of diskettes that I had that I thought was mainly just QuickBooks backups from my business in the early 90s had my DDM games. So that's when I really got the bug that I was going to finish this thing. And that, that was 2 years ago. So really there was no plan to finish it until about 2 years ago. By the way, that was about 2 years ago. Okay, now one article actually said that I managed to save memory with my change in the way I'm storing data, and I'm storing all kinds of things in 1 bit, and I'm storing stuff in 1 byte. I'm actually doubling the amount of memory I'm using, or having the size of the dungeons to do it. So more variety, less space, but still plenty of space. I think when I was a kid, I was a little silly about how big I wanted everything to be. Another thing is, and I noticed that this was there in the editing, is when I finally found the old original Commodore 64 code that all worked and had no font corruption. The bottom character was a Gallifreyan Time Lord. So no, there will not be Time Lords as a playable class. If you notice, even in the probably 86, 87 stuff. I had taken that out of there. That was just filler space, just to see what the game would look like. There seemed to be an impression that the big D&D map I had was inspired by Dungeons and Dragons and made for this game. No, that is my D&D world from the 80s, long before I ever even owned a computer. So I probably started that world in 79, 80 at the latest. So that was my D&D world. And I wish I had all the frickin' maps. I had all kinds of maps of the keeps and stuff on it. But, you know, we got what we got. So when I went from the Commodore 64 to the 128, my intention wasn't to make a native Commodore 128 version of the game. At that point, I had got this book, Machine Language for Beginners, and it had an assembler in it which you could type in. I used the 128 because I could use 80 column mode for my assembler, and I could take advantage of the extra RAM. And so that was the intention. When I went to the Amiga, that's when this got abandoned. I probably spent a week messing around with C, and I have to be honest, I hated it. At the time, I absolutely hated it. It seemed like it took a day to write the code just to open a window. So I really kind of, at that point, I had my degree in electronics. I was doing a lot more hardware stuff. So I never actually tried to make the game on the Amiga. And then finally, a lot of people said, hey, this might have the record for the longest time in development. But my question is abandoned development? You know, for me, this is something that was dropped and I never expected to pick it back up. It wasn't until I discovered that I still had everything. I'm back into using all of my retro machines and repairing them and just having a ball getting back to my old roots. That's when it came to my head that I really got to finish this thing, and I'm really excited to get it done. So now that we got that out of the way, what my plan is just to occasionally put out a dev blog type Tidbit Tuesday video. I'll talk about what I've been doing. Currently, there's not a whole lot to go over yet, but I have fixed some of the bugs that I talked about in the earlier video. I've got the problem with the color fixed in the dungeons. I've got source control set up, and I'm well on the way of getting the dungeon code rewritten. I also have, for my next Tidbit Tuesday, I'll probably go over a list of the sprints and the different steps I'm going to need to go through to get this game put together. So one little news item I want to cover is that when I built the Retro Chip Tester Pro, I made a mistake. I wanted to try out getting Gerbers and having boards made, and it seemed like the add-on boards for this would be a good way to do that. They're not, because there's a lot of them, and there's generally a 5-board minimum when you go to order boards, and each one's a separate order, so there's a lot of boards in a set. So I had emailed with a gentleman. I believe his website is American Retro. I'll put it in the description. But I was able to get a full set of all the add-on boards, all the adapter boards for the Retro Chip Tester Pro, which I already have most of the parts for already set aside. I had ordered them when I ordered the parts for the chip tester. It'll add a lot of capabilities for testing chips, cartridges, RAM sims, all kinds of good stuff. So that's pretty nifty. And so if you have a Retro Chip Tester Pro, he has a bunch of different bundles you can order where you can get different sets, or you can get the everything set, which is what I have here. Don't necessarily need everything in here, but there was something I needed in each of the sets, you know. Now for some project updates. First, I want to talk about the PET. The PET's in really good shape. It's mostly working. It is usable now, but it's waiting for some parts. It's waiting for a left shift key. It's waiting for an IEEE 488 chip. I think it's a 4066 if I remember right. I really do want to get back to the Amiga 4000 here shortly. It's almost ready. It had a power supply failure. Once I get the 4000 up and running, this 2500 has a new home, so I'm sure my buddy Tom would really like me to get off my butt and get that done. I have a boatload of Commodore 64s, Commodore 128s, Commodore 16s, Commodore Plus 4s, Commodore VIC-20s, all waiting for repairs. So I'm going to do some fairly short, I think, repair videos. I don't want to get too, you know, I know you probably don't want to see 80 Commodore 64 repair videos, but I might do some videos where I kind of just go over what all I did on a half a dozen 64s, or maybe, I don't know, maybe a video repairing one of each. So that's certainly waiting. And then, of course, with the fun with my tooth, freaking tooth, and By the way, the part I recorded yesterday, I had a bad toothache, and I noticed when I was editing it that I'm constantly messing with it, so sorry about that, but at least the antibiotics have knocked that down. So once I get this thing taken out and get the stitches in, I'll probably be not real happy tomorrow, but by day after tomorrow, I'll probably be feeling fine, but too puffy in the face to record, so I'm going to work on writing code. Please ignore the noises in this part because it's now Tuesday evening and this video's a tidbit Tuesday, so I got to get it out tonight. And of course, all the fireworks are going off. It's been a long week. We have a big party every year right around the 4th of July. And it's always on a Saturday, and this year we probably had 50 people here. Yeah, and this year we probably had 50 people here. So it gets to be crazy. Just a couple days before the party, we had a huge retro crisis. My nephew came over to play the pinball machine, and when he went to play, the flipper rubber had broken. You know, they're brand new. I just put them on 15 years ago. So I ordered some and got them in just in the nick of time and got the pinball machine up just in time for people to play it this weekend. So we also have some guests every year that come stay with us, and so Gandalf and Blue joined us. I always love it when they're here. Gandalf's awesome. And of course, Agnes and Denise have been just having a grand time partying and playing tetherball. And yes, I know their name are Luna and Tala. And then there's the question of what's in a name. So for DDM, I've settled on the name of Dark Dominion of Maldrakar. So Joe Naberhaus went out and he questioned the oracles on a proper name, and the oracle came up with this one. So Dark Dominion of Maldrakar it is. Hey, it's a classic RPG, so what do you expect? All right, so that's it. I am going to get this finished and out, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for coming.